Question 1. Evaluate how the following situation will affect the demand curve for online music streaming service. A. Income statistics show that income of 18 to 25 years old have increased by 10% over the last year. My answer is a rise in income of 18 to 25 years old by 10% will increases the demand for online music streaming services. This will cause the demand curve shift to the right. B. Efforts of music artists wanting greater protection of their music result in more stringent enforcement of copyrights and the shutdown of numerous illegal downloading sites. My answer is, since copyright enforcement has been stricter, they are now forced to purchase music through legal downloading sites. So, the demand for online music streaming services will decrease. Therefore, the demand curve will shift to the left. C. Believing that it has significant control of the market for online music streaming services, they decide to raise the subscription price to increase profits. The answer is, a raise in subscription price will not affect the demand curve, but the quantity demanded will be decreased to a lower quantity at the new price. The higher price will simply discourage some consumers from purchasing one. And the last one, the price of movie streaming services. The answer is, the increase or decrease in the price of movie streaming services will not affect the demand for online music streaming services. And the demand curve will remain the same because they are both unrelated to each other.
Question 2 states that if Malaysian Parliament adds a tax on cigarettes, what will happen to the demand, supply, price, and quantity of cigarettes? From the graph, we can see that at the beginning, the equilibrium point is achieved at E0 with equilibrium price P0 and equilibrium quantity Q0. When government puts on an excise tax on suppliers, the production cost of cigarettes will increase. As a result, suppliers will reduce the supply of cigarettes. So, the supply curve will move to the left from S0 to S1. The equilibrium point will move from E0 to E1, causing the decrease in quantity demanded. The equilibrium price will rise from P0 to P1, while the equilibrium quantity drops from Q0 to Q1. The pink region indicates the consumer tax burden, while the blue region indicates the supplier's tax burden. The total tax on cigarettes is indicated by pink plus blue region.
Question 3. Depict graphically, then discuss the change in equilibrium for the following situation. Grab experiences increased demand for ride-sharing services during Hari Raya Aidilfitri. The original equilibrium point is E1, where the price is P1, while the quantity is Q1. D1 intersects with S forms E1. When the demand is increasing, demand curves will move to the right from D1 to D2. Initially, there would be a shortage of services. Therefore, the price and quantity supplied will increase, leading a new equilibrium point at E2, where price is at P2 and quantity is Q2.
Question 4. Given the products below and the events that affected them, indicate what happens to demand or supply and the equilibrium price and quantity in a competitive market. Identify the determinant of demand or supply that causes the shift. For question A, since it mentioned about production, so it is from supplier's point of view. Therefore, supply increase because technology enables firms to produce more with lower cost as less resources used. Supply curve shift to the right from SO to S1. E points move from EO to E1 E price drop from PO to P1 and E quantity rises from QO to Q1. The determinant of supply is change in technology. For question B, since it's mentioned consumer, so it is from consumer's point of view. Demand increase, incomes rise mean better purchasing power. Demand curves shift to the right from DO to D1. E point move from EO to E1. E price rises from PO to P1. And E quantity rises from QO to Q1. The determinant of demand is change in income. For question C, chicken prices fall because of a decline in the cost of feeding chickens. Since it mentioned about cost, so it is likely supplier's point of view. Supply decrease, chicken is the substitute good for beef. Lower cost of supplying chicken increase its supply and therefore decrease the supply of beef. Supply curve shift to the left from SO to S1. E point moves from EO to E1, E price rises from PO to P1, and E quantity drops from QO to Q1. Determinant of supply, change in prices of other goods. Question D, since it mentioned about tax, so it is from supplier's point of view. Supply decreased because taxes increased production cost. Supply curve shift to the left from SO to S1. E point moves from EO to E1. E price rises from PO to P1 and E quantity drops from QO to Q1. The determinant of supply is taxes.
Question 5. Using the schedules given, plot the demand curve and the supply curve on the below graph. Label the axes and indicate for each axis the units being used to measure price and quantity. Then answer the question. So, this is the graph after I'm plotting using the schedule given. The supply curve is labeled as SO and the demand curve is labeled as DO. Question A. Give the equilibrium price and quantity for rice. My answer is the equilibrium price and quantity for rice will be 1 ringgit 20 cent and 25,000 tons. Question B. Indicate the equilibrium price and quantity on the graph by drawing lines from the intersection of the supply and demand curve to the price and quantity axis. My answer is the equilibrium price and quantity on the graph are labeled as PE and QE. Next, question C. If the federal government decide to support the price of rice at 1 ringgit 40 cent per kg, tell whether there will be a surplus or shortage and how much it will be. My answer is if the federal government decide to support the price of rice at 1 ringgit 40 cent per kg, there will be a surplus of 20,000 tons, which is 35,000 minus 50,000. And the last one, question D. Demonstrate your answer to part C on your graph and label the quantity you designed as the shortage or surplus. My answer is when the federal government set the price of rice at 1 ringgit 40 cent per kg, they have surplus. The surplus exists where quantity supplied more than quantity demand. The quantity surplus is 20,000 tons.
Question 6 asks for how might the Ministry of Higher Education use the supply of higher education to reduce the cost of attending higher education? My answer is the ministry can increase the supply of higher education to reduce the cost. This is because when the ministry increases the supply, then the supply curve will move to the right from S0 to S1. The equilibrium point will move from E0 to E1, causing the increase in quantity demanded. The equilibrium price will then reduce from P0 to P1, while the equilibrium quantity will increase from Q0 to Q1. As a result, more students can attending higher education with lower price. Thank you.